Welcome back to the next part of the story. Continuing from the previous part, the husband and his marriage are on the verge of collapse. I will continue the story to let you know where this marriage will go. A few weeks later, Missy stopped by my office. "Got a minute, Bill?" she asked, her voice light. "Sure," I replied, unsure of what was coming next. "Does the company have any rules about dating employees?" she asked, and I immediately understood what she was implying. "I was hoping to ask you out," I admitted, unable to hide my smile. "We do have a strict malpractice policy," I continued. "If things don't work out, it's on us, not the company." "Good," she said, handing me a folded note with her address and phone number. "Dinner tomorrow night. Mia's coming too." I grinned. "I'm looking forward to it." She left with a light-hearted step, and for the first time in a long while, I couldn't wait for the evening to come. Later, I left a voicemail for my daughters, letting them know I missed them and giving them an update on my life. I knew it might stir things up, but I was ready to move on. Missy seemed like a good place to start. Missy was not only beautiful, but also genuine. I had already met her sweet daughter and her warm parents. It felt like a fresh start, something I desperately needed. Just 15 minutes later, I got a text from Emma. "I can't believe you're already dating. You're a fool." I laughed to myself, realizing how delusional she was. I wasn't mourning our marriage. At 41, I was still young enough to start over. Missy was in her early 30s, and maybe she'd want more kids down the road. But for now, I knew she was looking for something serious, not just a fling. That evening, I prepared for dinner with Missy. I felt good about myself, fit, successful, and ready for a new chapter. But as I thought about dating again, I realized how much things had changed. Dating was different when you weren't married anymore. Back then, everything had been so easy. I even found myself worrying about how to please a new partner. But I shook off the anxiety. I was ready to move forward, even if it would be awkward at first. With a bottle of wine, a bouquet of flowers, and a stuffed bear for Mia, I headed to Missy's house. I figured it wouldn't hurt to win over her daughter, too. When Missy opened the door, I was struck by how beautiful she looked. Her fiery red curls framed her face, and her sundress, just above her knees, showed off her long legs. She was barefoot, her toes painted bright pink. "Do I pass the test?" she asked, her eyes twinkling with humor. "Absolutely," I said without hesitation. She laughed, then took the flowers and wine from me. "Mia is watching TV. Go say hi to her. I'm sure she'll love the bear." As Missy went to the kitchen, I knelt down next to Mia. "Hey there, sweetie. I brought you a bear." Mia hesitated for a moment, then smiled and grabbed the bear, running off to show Missy. The whole scene reminded me of when my own daughters were that age, and a wave of nostalgia hit me hard. "Are you okay?" Missy asked, noticing the wistful look on my face. I forced a smile. "Just thinking about my daughters when they were little." "Is it really that bad?" Missy asked softly. "They won't talk to me. Emma turned them against me. But I'm not giving up. I leave them messages every day," I explained. "I'm really sorry, Bill," Missy said quietly. "I know it's tough, but I also know they listen to your messages." I told them about our dinner plans, and Emma texted me saying, I'm in a hole for moving on so fast. Sorry, she hesitated. Is that too fast? I smirked. Maybe, but I'd be happy to figure it out. With you. She bit her lip, looking cute and unsure. Maybe, but I'd be happy to figure it out with you. She smiled and took my hand. Dinner's ready. Hope you like pasta with meat sauce. Sounds perfect, I said, grinning. I also brought garlic bread, so get ready for some serious couch time later. Mia giggled, and I was surprised by how relaxed and open Missy had become. She caught my awkward expression and said, Bill, we're both adults here. I like you and am not shy about it. You're a great guy, and I think it's worth giving us a shot. You think I'm hot tough? I asked, still processing the shift in our conversation. Yep, she said with a playful glint in her eyes. You've been causing quite a stir at the store. You're good looking, in shape, and smart, and we all know how you feel about loyalty. I sat there, feeling better than I had in a long time. So, I'm getting in line early, she added with a wink. I squeezed her hand. I like you too. Mia, noticing that she wasn't the center of attention anymore, piped up. Ski's my favorite. I love sketty too, I said with a smile. The fattier the better. I spotted the Parmesan on the table. You must have really stinky cheese. Missy laughed. It's not stinky, it's parm. Parm? Stinky cheese, I teased, sniffing it dramatically. Wow, this is really stinky. Missy shook her head as I handed the jar to Mia. She sniffed it, shrugged, and then poured it all over her pasta. We kept things light, chatting about Mia's preschool and her little circle of friends. She had a lot of stories to share, and I enjoyed every second of it. Eventually, Missy became quieter, just watching Mia and me talk. As the evening wore on, she started cleaning up, and I offered to help. No need, Missy laughed. She hasn't told you about her favorite TV shows yet. After getting Mia settled for the night, Missy joined me on the couch with a glass of wine. She leaned back, sighing contentedly, and propped her feet up. I love being a mom, she said, her voice soft. But sometimes, this right here is the best part of my day. Without thinking, I wrapped my arm around her and she relaxed into me. It's harder with two, I said, thinking about my own experience with the girls. Definitely, she agreed with a knowing smile. After a moment of silence, I asked, do you think my girls will ever come around? I hope so, Missy said thoughtfully. It's still new for them. You're doing your best, but I know it'll take time. She kissed my cheek, her touch gentle. You're a great father, Bill. Don't give up on them. She set her glass down, her expression turning serious. Bill, I've already told you how I feel. I'm not one for games. I want us to keep seeing each other, and that includes being exclusive. I have Mia to think about, and she needs a solid father figure in her life. I need a partner, someone steady. I opened my mouth to respond, but she held up her hand. I know what you're going to say. Usually this conversation scares guys off, but I don't think you're that kind of man. I'm giving you the chance to back out. If you're just looking to date around, I'm not your girl, but if you're serious, then I'm here. Wow, I said, surprised. Was that a rehearsed speech? Missy's expression faltered, and I thought for a moment she might think I was rejecting her. Missy, I said quickly, we've known each other for years. The last few weeks have been great. I'm not going anywhere. I'm a family guy, always have been. I don't really know how to be single, and honestly, the idea of dating again scares the hell out of me. If Emma had been faithful, I'd still be married. I'm not looking for something casual. Missy smiled and squeezed my hand. You're a good man, Bill. Smart, funny, and you make the best spaghetti I've ever had. She laughed, giving me a playful shove. I'd like to be your girlfriend. Let's make something real out of this for both of us and for Mia. That night, we didn't sleep together. As tempting as it was, I felt it was better to take things slow. Missy had laid her feelings on the line, and I wanted to respect that. A few days later, I got a break when a guy applied for a managerial position at the store. I didn't know his name, but I immediately recognized him as the man who had played a part in ruining my marriage. He was interviewing for the night manager position, and I told Anne to hire him on the spot. On his second night, I was waiting in the parking lot when he arrived for his shift. I slipped a 40-inch television into the back of his car, a model I knew we had in stock. The next morning, I timed it so I could catch him when his shift ended. I casually walked him to his car, asking about his team when I noticed the television in the back seat. Jeff, I said, feigning surprise, did you buy that television before your shift? We're not even open yet. No, Bill, that's not mine, he stammered, looking flustered. I don't know how it got there. We need to head back to the store, I said calmly. He insisted we check the security footage, so I played along and took him to the security room. I had already disabled the cameras, and when he saw the system was down, he panicked. I called the cops. Though he was convicted of a misdemeanor, he didn't serve jail time, just community service and a fine, which was more than I had spent on the television. The company stepped up security after that, but Jeff never figured out I was behind it all. A week later, Missy and I were standing outside my office when I pulled up. She greeted me with a kiss. Are we still on for dinner tonight? She asked, her voice warm. Definitely, I replied. I'm making something special. Just then, a familiar voice came from behind us. Is that the... I turned around, surprised. Excuse me? Missy remained calm, facing Emma. Emma, what do you want? Emma crossed her arms, frowning. I've been trying to call you. Did you block my number? Missy's tone turned sharp. Yes, after your 30 messages calling me an a-hole for living my life. What do you want? I need to talk about the girls and their college plans, Emma said, her expression softening just slightly. They can go wherever they want. I've already set aside the money for them, I said flatly. I'd like to be involved, but since you've poisoned them against me, they won't even talk to me, Emma said, her voice rising. They're just worried you won't pay for tuition, I said, keeping my cool. Of course I will. I still love them despite everything, Emma insisted. Because you can't keep your legs closed? I shot back. I lost them in the divorce, Emma retorted. Missy couldn't hold back a laugh, but Emma shot her a glare. It was one mistake, Emma said, trying to justify herself. A mistake? You destroyed my family, I said coldly. You should still be my husband, Emma argued. Delusional, I muttered. You ruined everything. If I find out you're seeing anyone else, I'll make sure he knows exactly what kind of woman you are. Emma yelled something as I turned to walk away, but before I could react, Missy had shoved her up against the car, jabbing her finger in Emma's face. Stay away from my man, witch. You tossed him aside and I picked him up. I rushed over to pull Missy off her, putting a stop to it. Let it go, Missy, she's not worth it. Emma was shouting insults as I walked away. Please, Emma, just go away. It's over and it's your fault. I left her there sobbing and caught up with Missy, who was breathing heavily. She apologized, but I couldn't resist teasing her a bit. I have to admit, I like it when women fight over me, I grinned. Does wonders for my ego. We laughed and went inside. Later that night, I got a call from my mom. She barely spoke before the line cut off. I tried calling back, but there was no answer. A quick call to emergency services confirmed that paramedics were already on their way. Without thinking, I bolted from the store, telling Anne to cover for me. Missy called after me, but I didn't stop to explain. I ran straight to my car. By the time I reached my mom's house, the ambulance was already leaving. I followed it to the hospital, but when I got to the emergency room, I was met with the worst news imaginable. She had passed before they even arrived. She must have fainted while we were on the phone. I sat alone in the waiting room, tears streaming down my face, thinking about our last conversation. What had she been trying to say? Was it, am I in trouble? Am I having a heart attack? I'd never know. My phone rang. It was Missy. Hey, I said quietly. My mom just died. Oh, Bill, I'm so sorry, Missy replied softly. Yeah, thanks, I said, my voice thick. I don't think I'll be great company tonight. No, I'm coming to you. You need me, Bill. Let me come, please. I didn't want to be alone. Okay, I agreed. I'll be home soon. I'll see you when you get here. After hanging up, I got in my car, but instead of heading straight home, I drove to my old house. I had to tell the girls whether they wanted to see me or not. As I pulled up, I saw both their cars in the driveway. My stomach sank. I never thought the first thing I'd have to say to them in months would be something like this. I didn't care that I didn't live there anymore. I entered the code for the garage and stepped inside. Emma's car wasn't there, and that was a relief. I wasn't sure I was ready to face her in that moment. The house was quiet as I went upstairs and found the girls' rooms. Daddy? Lily called as I walked in. What do you want? Daniel shouted from behind her. Did you come to beg? She sneered. Well, you can go to hell. Grandma had a heart attack and died this morning, I said, cutting her off. Both girls froze, their faces filled with shock. I just thought you should hear this from me, I added. Now I'm going to hell, I guess. I turned and walked out. Daniel yelled after me, but I didn't stop. I went straight to my car and drove away. I ended up at the small lake where I used to spend so much time with the girls. The air was cold and the water was just beginning to thaw, perfectly still. I sat on a bench and cried, not just for my mom, but for the distance that had grown between me and my daughters. Daniel's anger echoed in my mind. It was clear she didn't want me in her life. I couldn't help but wonder if I had made a mistake somewhere along the way. What had I done to make them hate me so much? Emma was the one who had destroyed our marriage. Why couldn't they see that? I didn't know how long I sat there, but then I heard footsteps. I turned and saw Emma and the girls approaching. "How did you find me here?" I asked, staring at the water. "You didn't turn off the Find My Phone app," Emma said. "Bill, I'm really sorry about your mom." "Yeah, well," I spat. "Do you regret her death or the fact that you turned her against me and she died without making up with me?" She didn't respond. "Leave me alone. I can't deal with you right now," I said. "I'll never forgive you for what you did to me." The last time we talked, she told me she wouldn't speak to me again until I backed out of the divorce. She didn't even say she loved me when she hung up. "I'm so sorry, Bill, for everything," Emma said, her voice soft. I heard her walk away, and then Daniel spoke. "Dad, we're sorry too. Please forgive us for being witches." I turned around and both girls rushed to me, wrapping their arms around me. We cried together, a long silent moment of grief and reconciliation. "It's not my fault, girls," I said, trying to make them understand. "Why can't you see that your mom is the reason we're not together?" "We're sorry, Dad," Lily said, her voice thick with emotion. "We just thought you should forgive her. She still loves you. It's so obvious." "Not enough to stay faithful," I replied, my voice bitter. "I'm sorry, girls. I really am." I held them tighter, and we embraced again while Emma watched from her car parked in the distance. "Girls, I need you," I said, my heart heavy. "You'll be leaving for college soon, and I'm going to miss you so much. We've wasted so much time." "We get it, Daddy," Daniel said softly. "We're not going to shut you out anymore," Lily added. "I just wish Grandma had a chance to make things right." "Daddy, can we come with you?" Daniel asked. "We haven't seen your new house yet. Maybe we could grab some pizza?" "Sure," I said, smiling through my sadness. "Tell your mom and let's go." When we pulled into my driveway, I saw Missy's car. I had completely forgotten she was coming over. "Looks like you're going to meet Missy," I told the girls. "Is she your girlfriend?" they asked in unison, making me laugh. "Yeah," I said. "I mean, we've only just started dating." "Look at you blush," Daniel teased, grinning. The girls jumped out of the car and ran to Missy's door, bombarding her with questions. I could tell Missy wasn't quite sure what to make of the situation. "Girls, give her a break," I said, laughing. "Let's carry her inside and I'll introduce you all properly." They gave me quick kisses on the cheek and rushed off. I walked over to Missy, who looked surprised. "Sorry about all that," I said as she opened the door. She smiled warmly and kissed my cheek. "Your daughters." "Come on," I said. "Let me properly introduce you." "I must look a mess," Missy said, glancing up at me. I laughed. "You look fine. They'll like you." "Lily, Daniel, this is Missy," I called to the girls. They both hugged Missy and, as usual, cheekily said, "You're super hot." Lily jumped up and said, "Good for you, Daddy." Missy laughed, and I was too stunned to say anything. "Let's take a quick tour of the house. Then I need to handle some things for Grandma's funeral," I said. "Bill, I'll order the pizzas while you show them around," Missy offered. "Sounds perfect," I said. "You're reading my mind." Oh, the girls said in unison, their eyes wide. I shook my head as Missy smiled. I decided to wait until the next morning to share the news about my mom. I'd write an obituary for the paper and post the funeral details on Facebook after visiting the funeral home the next day. After dinner, we spent hours telling Missy stories about my mom. The girls, in their mischievous way, added a few embarrassing stories about me to keep Missy entertained. It wasn't my fault the pier was wet. I didn't mean to fall in the lake, I defended myself. Before long, I noticed the time. It was already 10. Girls, time's getting away from us, I said. It's getting late. They frowned. Can we stay the night? I don't have the guest room set up yet, I replied. Okay, here's the deal, I said, trying to lighten the mood. I'll pick you up in the morning and we'll go out for breakfast. But if you don't mind, I could really use your help sorting through Grandma's things. Of course, Dad. We'll help however we can, they replied. Thank you, I said, grateful for their support. Missy, would you like to go for a ride or do you need to head back to Mia? She's with my parents tonight, she replied. Lily shot up from her seat. Who's Mia? Mia is my 4-year-old daughter, Missy explained. Both girls squealed. Oh my God, I can't wait to meet her, Danielle exclaimed. Missy laughed at their excitement. I promise, soon, okay? Let's go, I said. After we got back to my house, Missy and I sat on the couch. They're great girls, Missy said, smiling. I'm glad we're finally getting along, I replied with a sigh. I just wish it didn't take losing my mom to make it happen. Missy snuggled into me and I wrapped my arms around her. I fell asleep with her there, feeling the warmth of her embrace. When I woke up the next morning, Missy had covered us with a blanket, still curled up against me. I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt so close to someone. I kissed her forehead gently. Sorry I fell asleep on you, I said softly. She mumbled, stretching. It's fine, baby. You've had a long, emotional day. Would you like to join me and the girls for breakfast? I asked. Only if I can bring Mia. My parents have plans this morning, she replied. Of course. My daughters will love her, I said, smiling. I texted the girls and asked them to meet us at IHOP. When I walked in holding Mia's hand, the girls immediately rushed over to her. In no time, Mia was lifted into the air, twirling and laughing, surrounded by kisses. I have to go to the bathroom, she squealed. We'll take her, the girls chorused, hurrying her off to the restroom. I don't know, Missy, I said with a grin. Do you think they'll get along? She playfully tapped my shoulder and kissed my cheek. I hope it stays that way for years to come. It was a little unnerving to hear her say that, considering we'd only been on one official date, but I had to admit, I was starting to feel the same way. As we sat down to eat, Mia and the girls talked nonstop. Mia asked so many questions about their lives that even they seemed surprised by her curiosity. She wasn't just talking about herself, she genuinely wanted to know everything about them. The girls were pros at interacting with kids. They were neighborhood babysitters, after all, and knew all the best kid shows and movies. Mia was eating it all up. I also noticed how quickly she bonded with Missy. There was no jealousy or hostility. Despite the rocky past with my daughters, they had warmed up to Missy almost immediately. They hadn't spoken to me for months after the divorce, yet they embraced Missy without hesitation. I didn't quite understand it, and I was going to have to ask them about it later. After making a few calls, sorting through my mom's things, and visiting the funeral home, I finally had a moment to relax. The girls came over for dinner. Missy and Mia had left after breakfast to give us space. Missy didn't want to be around during the emotional process at my mom's house. She thought it would be too hard for Mia with all the questions while we were still processing everything. "Daddy, are you in love with Missy?" Daniel suddenly asked, her tone serious. "We've only been out a few times," I said, trying to keep it light. "It's too soon to say that." Lily raised an eyebrow. "Okay, Dad, you ever seen those cartoons where the girl looks at her prince with hearts floating around?" I nodded, chuckling as I bit into my pizza. "Well, she looks at you like that," Lily said. "Like she's got hearts in her head." Before I could respond, both girls looked at me and said in unison, "And you look at her the same way." "We like her." I went from amused to frustrated. I tossed my pizza slice back onto my plate, wiped my hands, and walked to the sink to collect myself. "Daddy," Daniel said softly, "how can you break my heart all this time and then tell me you like her? What did I do to make you shut me out? To ignore me and tell me to go to hell when I needed you? How many times did I cry over messages you didn't care to hear?" Lily spoke quietly. "Mom made us?" I asked, stunned. Daniel hesitated before nodding. "It started when Mom said, 'If you want to be a family again, come back to me.'" "We're sorry," Lily added. The words hit me like a punch. I turned around and saw a tear slip down Jenny's cheek before she rushed to hug me. "Dad, we're sorry," she whispered. "When that didn't work, Mom told us you left us and wouldn't pay for college. She said your messages were just a way to look good in the divorce," Lily explained. "And you believed that?" I asked, my voice thick with disbelief. "How could we not?" Lily said softly. "We thought you were being unreasonable." "What about me?" I asked. "Would you let your boyfriend cheat on you?" They didn't answer. "Where do we draw the line?" I asked firmly. Both girls started crying and we embraced again. The weight of it lifted and I felt anger, sorrow, and relief. "I'm sorry, girls," I whispered, holding them tight. "I missed you so much." After a while, I said, "Time to go home. You've got school tomorrow. Don't forget to tell Mom about the wake and funeral." We hugged one last time before they left. Watching them drive off, I looked up at the sky and whispered, "You didn't have to go, Mom, but thanks for bringing them back to me. I'll miss you." The wake was tough, especially since I've always felt awkward around bodies. Mom looked peaceful, and part of me was relieved she'd be with Dad again. He had passed away a few years ago and didn't want a traditional wake. He thought it was strange for people to gather around a corpse. Mom had planned everything, even picking out her own casket. I stood by the front when Emma and the girls arrived. They gave me warm, tear-filled hugs. Emma stayed back, giving me space. After the prayer, Emma placed something in the casket, a photo of the three of us, with Emma holding Mom and our babies in her arms. It made me tear up, I gently placed it next to Mom's hands and lost it for the first time that day. Later, the priest began the prayer service, and Emma stayed at the back, talking to everyone. You can't be part of a family for as long as she was without forming bonds. The immediate family was supposed to sit in the front row. My girls were on my right, Missy on my left, but something felt off. I looked around and saw Emma standing in the back, wiping her eyes. It didn't feel right. Mom would have wanted Emma up front too. She was like a daughter to her. I walked to the back of the room and people followed me. I held out my hand to Emma. Come here. You don't need to stay back there. Emma sobbed and hugged me. Thank you, she whispered. We went to the front, where Uncle John gave her his seat. Missy kissed my cheek. You're a good man, Bill, she whispered. It felt strange holding Missy's hand with Emma only a few feet away, but I hoped I wouldn't regret it later. As I said goodbye to the last guests, Emma approached with Missy beside me. I wondered how she would react and hoped there wouldn't be any tension. Bill, thank you for letting me be part of today, Emma said. She loved you like a daughter. It was the right thing to do. I offered Emma a ride in the limo the next day. She hugged me and cried. I felt Missy's hand on my waist, fearing tension. Breaking the hug, Emma said, If you don't want anything from me, I'll go home. She smiled briefly at Missy. I'm glad you're here for him. You may not know it, but he was a mama's boy. It's going to be really hard on him without her. With that, she left the room. Missy hugged me. Let's get you home. Back at the house, Missy sat at the table with a cold beer. Things with Emma went better than expected. I was worried she'd start something with you, I admitted, relieved. Well, the girls helped with that. We just need to get through tomorrow. I hoped she was right. I didn't know why I was so uneasy about Emma. Maybe I was paranoid. Will you stay the night with me? I asked. She smiled, took my hand, and said, You couldn't kick me out if you tried. We didn't make love, but having her spoon with me was the best sleep I'd had since the divorce. As we waited for the prayer to begin, Emma whispered, I'm not going to cause trouble. I know, I lied. I'm just comfortable. She scoffed. How do you think I feel? I'm an outcast here. No one thinks that about you, I said, trying to reassure her. Jean, my mom's friend, patted me on the shoulder. Your mom was wonderful. We'll all miss her. After the funeral, we went to my mom's favorite Polish restaurant. Emma seemed uncomfortable, searching for a seat. I led her to the table where Missy and the girls were sitting. Emma, you'll always be family. No matter the divorce, you're welcome here. She thanked me and a tear rolled down her cheek. I'm not sure when I got over the pain Emma caused, but eventually I did. Life went on. The girls went to college and Skyped with me every week. Missy and I are still together and I'm close to proposing. Emma and I still talk occasionally, but we're on good terms. She's dating a nice guy and I hope things work out. Some may think I should have forgiven Emma, but I just couldn't. Maybe I'm the bad guy, but I can live with that.